Hi, buddy. This is JPar, and you are listening to the We Promise Nothing show. Today on the show, we are going to be reviewing Psycho. That's right, it is that classic from Alfred Hitchcock that, came out in 1960. And today on the show, I have someone who's brand new to the show, actually. He's a friend who I met through our wrestling league. That we have online through Discord. He is ArachnidSoul. Say hello to the crowd.
What's going on, everyone? Glad to be here. Glad to be talking about Psycho. I finally got JPar to watch this. We tried to do this a year ago, but we're finally going to get to do it here today.
That's right, and I'm happy to have this man on board. I do apologize, Arachnid. I did try to watch this movie last year, but some other stuff came up. But, I'm very happy that my schedule is cleared up this year, that we can actually do this and we can share this out with the audience here. Now, for those who don't know, Psycho came out in 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, stars the likes of Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, John Gavin, Janet Leigh, Martin Balsam, and others. And, I think everybody knows what this movie is about. Obviously it's about a psychopath, but this movie has been referenced and is embedded in the zeitgeist and embedded in pop culture. You see it's spoofed many times and just in reference. Before I even knew what this movie was, I seen references to this movie. And would you say that's fair for yourself, ArachnidSoul?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where for people who have not seen this movie, and I try to tell them to watch this movie, they tell me, oh, I already know the ending. It's like, you don't know the ending. You know 3 seconds of a scene in the middle. Not only don't you know the ending, but the entire experience is wonderful. And you deserve to sit down and watch this, even though you think you know where this thing's going.
So, as you folks can tell already, this man loves this movie. So I watched it for the first time last night, but before I really get into, and this is the first time, I know I'm this far into being a movie critic, and I've only seen Psycho just now. I know what you're thinking.
Shocking.
But, this is, before we even get into that, I think my first knowledge of this movie, and you're going to laugh, is the first reference I see in this movie is Police Academy 3.
Wow. Yeah. It's a little late, but,
Sweet. Oh, right. No, this came out in 1960.
What were you doing in 1960? You should have been watching.
I didn't exist.
Oh, okay. I guess
I wasn't born yet. Now, because in Police Academy 3, there's a scene with Sweet Chuck. I don't know who the actor is, but the other character Zed, played by Bobcat Goldthwait, where he's in the shower, Sweet Chuck is showering, he sees the shadow of what looks like a knife, and the shadow of someone holding a knife through the shower curtain, and of course he freaks out because he's getting and it's even kind of playing the music plays too eventually. But he tears down the shower curtain. It's just Zed. He's like, I want to know, you want to borrow my soap? And he's just holding this container, and he's so that was my first introduction to the whole concept of Psycho. But obviously I've seen it spoofed many times after that, because it's just once again embedded into pop culture. And I got to, it was kind of nice. It was definitely nice to see where all these references come from. And once again, this movie's so old that it influences way more than you think until you actually sit down and watch it. And when I sat down, I was like, oh, okay, now I know where that comes from. All right. So it's a highly influential movie, and you would know that just by sitting down and watching it.
Well, I remember I must have been, 10 years old, and I went to Universal Studios in California with my dad, and we went on the Jaws ride where Jaws comes out of the water and all of this stuff. And we're on this tour bus or whatever, and we go up this hill, and my dad is like, "Oh, there it is," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "You don't recognize that house? That entire house is on the
Yes.
Universal lot still."
Oh,
And
that's
he was like,
cool.
"Well." He was like, "Well, what house do you think that was?" I'd never seen this movie. So I told him I thought it was the Addams Family house. And he's like, "No, that's the house from the movie Psycho." Now, like I said, I was about 10 years old at this point. And years later, I decided it was the last day of the year. This is probably 10 years after that. I'm probably 20, 21 years old. And I said, which movies have I either not seen or watched as a kid that I forgot about and have heard these are great movies? You need to see them. And this is back when you would rent VHS tapes. And I said, I'm going to rent some. So I rented all three of the original Star Wars movies,
Oh, nice.
sat down, watched those back to back like one long movie, which is why when people ask me about those movies and they talk about part one, part three, I'm like, I don't know. It was all one day for me. Had never seen them before, haven't seen them since. I also rented and watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I did not enjoy.
Oh man, now you're gonna make
and
Trev upset with that one.
Oh, people are going to get upset, and people will tell me they don't like musicals, and I will list great musicals: West Side Story, Amadeus, The King and I, Oklahoma. They have no interest in that, but then they'll turn around and tell me they love Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is a horrible musical and horrible movie. But the other movie that I also rented and watched that same day or that same weekend was Psycho, and obviously I was blown away by that movie. I'm looking, I have a not only youtube.com/ArachnidSoul, forgot to get my plugs in, but also on Letterboxd, you can find me at ArachnidSoul. There's not many movies that I give, higher than 3.5 out of 5 stars to. This is a rare 4-star movie for me. I've reviewed probably 350, 400 movies on there, and this is a 4 stars. Maybe there's only like 5 4-star movies, and 4.5, 5 stars is almost impossible, though some have got it.
So you're already telling me that you're giving this a 4 stars.
Well,
Okay. I mean, a little out of order on how we typically do things here, but okay. So you're telling me right out the gate, this is a 4-star movie for you.
Absolutely, 4 out of 5 stars. It all comes together. I don't know what the exact format of the show is, but I show up.
Lucky for you, we do rate things out of 5 stars around here.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So you already nailed that one.
Almost every movie is like 3.5 stars. I noticed 3.5 stars that's most movies. If you get 3 stars, that's pretty bad. There were 2 movies I rated last year out of 106 movies I watched that only got, I think, 2 stars or something. Just so horrible that we won't even bring them up.
I'm going to mention, 3 stars is above average.
Yeah, 3 stars to me is about slightly above average. 3.5 is where most movies fall because that jump to 4 stars is so difficult. To get up to that top of that 4-star hill is so difficult that so many things get stuck at 3.5 stars. And then you have people I notice on there that review things and everything's 4 and 5 stars. Fast and Furious. Oh man,
you're gonna hate me. You're gonna hate these reviews then.
You can't give it away, JPar. You've gotta. They've gotta earn it.
You just gave it away.
No. I mean, you can't give away the good ratings too easily. The movies have to earn it.
All right, this is gonna be very fun having you on the show. I can see this already. This is great. Okay, so you've given it 4 stars. I'm going to tell you, I don't want to, let me just cushion. So this might, this is, it's interesting you say that you saw Star Wars and this the same weekend. You said?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how old were you?
Horror. I was probably 19, 20.
Oh, okay. Jeez. All right. So I saw Star Wars when I was a very young age. So I kind of have a connection to those movies. This I only just saw now, And anyone who listens to my show, they know that I do really love the original trilogy of Star Wars. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't like this movie. I do like this movie.
Actually, let me stop you there. I just did the math. I would have been 16.
Oh, okay.
I watched all those movies, yeah.
Okay, but still, I mean, that's a little bit later in life, right? So it's like, you don't have the nostalgia factor, right? With like a Star Wars. This you just liked because, like, hey, this is a cool movie that you discovered at 16, which is right on. You know what I mean? Now I just saw this now, and I also like it's great because I like watching old movies and seeing where all the references come from. Now, would I watch this movie again? Probably not. It was definitely a cool one-time watch. I may watch it again in the future. I don't know. But right now, I probably wouldn't. So I would have to give it a 3, I'm sorry to say.
Oh. Now let me ask you something, Jay. You wouldn't watch this movie again. How many times have you watched Howard the Duck?
At least 3.
At least 3 times, but this is a one-time watch.
Well, okay, let's put it this... Okay, actually, let me answer that question honestly. I've watched the whole movie, Howard the Duck, only once. But the scene... What is that actress's name?
Talking about the topless duck woman in the bathtub?
What? Topless duck? No, I don't remember that.
Oh, okay.
Who was the actress in Howard the Duck?
Was it? It's been a million years since I watched it. Was it the same chick from Back to the Future?
Un momento, por favor.
The mom?
Yeah, but I can't remember her name right now. And I know there's at least one person yelling at me right now for not knowing her name.
I want to call
Leah
her
Thompson.
Lily. I was going to call her Lily Leafman.
Leah Thompson.
But, yeah.
Yeah, so Leah Thompson, the scene where she crawls into the bed with Howard the Duck, I have watched multiple times. Just putting that out there.
Okay. Well,
but the whole movie
everybody says
only...
something different.
Well, it's not for the duck, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Let's get back to Psycho here. Now, once again, I'm not saying that I'm not going to watch it again. I'm just saying the chances of me watching it again are probably slim. I did enjoy it for the time I watched it, but it's not the kind of stuff that I go and rewatch. And it is because I did grow up with movies like the Star Wars trilogy and like Indiana Jones and Gremlins and Ghostbusters and stuff like that. So my tastes are a little more different than yours.
I mean, I grew up with all those movies too, but I mean, I'm such a fan of the art of cinema, I can put that stuff aside. You know, I grew up watching, Hulk Hogan wave his hand next to his head. But when I see Rob Van Dam, when I see Mysterio or Malenko, I can still respect that for just being phenomenal. I try to watch, 100 movies every year, like I've said before. This year I'm coming up short because we're in October. I'm only at 44. I try to watch a horror movie every day in October, which is torture to me because I don't really like the genre. But when you watch so many horror movies, you first of all realize that the whole point of horror is not for it to be scary. People will judge a horror movie based on if it's scary or not. That's not the point. There's different genres within horror, and that's a whole tangent we could get off on. But I try to watch movies every year from every different era. So this year, for example, I watched one of the best silent movies ever made. And I'm not a Charlie Chaplin fan or whatever, but this is a different guy whose name I can't remember right now. The movie's called The Kid Brother. It's a silent movie from 1927. It has modern day pacing. So if you're somebody who, like, I can't watch an old slow movie, modern day pacing is Jackie Chan-esque in the sense that everybody in the movie does their own stunts, and these are very impressive things. At the same time, I'll go watch something from 1970, 72 to 76 are some of the best movies ever made, because that's really the era when the directors were making the movies. This is after the era where a studio would hire somebody to make a movie that the studio wanted to be made. They gave directors free reign from like 72 to 76. So you get all those great Scorsese movies, Easy Rider and the like. And then there was a movie that came out called, I believe, Heaven's Gate or something like that, late 70s, or probably late 70s. They spent the equivalent of today's money between 160 and 180 million dollars on this movie. It was going to be this big blockbuster, and it flopped. And at that point, they reeled things back in and took away a lot of power from the directors. So movies kind of became, more kind of old school, what the studios want, what's going to make money, and everything fits into the same box. But as a big cinema fan, I owe it to myself, and anybody listening to this owes it to themselves, to go watch older movies that are in genres that they might not necessarily think they love, movies that predate the nostalgic movies of their childhood. And you've got to look at each of these things in a vacuum. Is this good? Forget about my likes and dislikes. Was this a good movie? So
let me explain how I get to this 3 then. Because
okay.
Now here's the thing. I'm not saying that I dislike this movie. I do like this movie. But if I saw this movie earlier, maybe in my childhood, or maybe even during 1960 when it came out, I probably would think it was a much better movie. So it is ruined for me a little bit because you say people, not me particularly, but you say people don't really know the ending. But that's the thing, like, I did know the ending. So when it got there, I wasn't surprised. So I knew the story. Like, I didn't know the whole story. So we're gonna get into spoilers, folks. So at the beginning, we are, and this is what I thought was actually was kind of interesting about the movie, and something that I liked. Now we start off, not with Norman Bates, but with the, just one second here, I'm going to get her name, with Lila Crane, played by Vera Miles. She is the point of view perspective. She's the perspective that you go for here, character. And so she's in this situation where she basically she steals money from her boss, right? And she decides to split town. And then it's just about her, like, kind of, like, it's her, it follows her through half of the movie. And then until that famous scene where you say that everyone says that's the end of the movie, but it's not the end of the movie, it's the middle of the movie, where she gets murdered. Surprise! Like, you already know, you already seen it, everybody's seen that, no spoilers or anything there. Everybody knows that scene, that's the iconic scene, right? Mm-hmm. So again, that scene is, like, super iconic, right? So it's put like way over in my head. It's like, oh, it's this awesome scene. It has to be this amazing scene, right? So carrying forward, then the rest of the movie, you focus kind of on, it goes to Norman Bates for a bit. And I think probably back then, that must have been, like, super shocking, where you thought that, like, she was the star of the movie. And then, like, suddenly, like, wait a minute, now we're watching the murderer clean up the crime scene? Like, what is this? Like, that must have been so shocking for them back then. It's not even so much, I don't even think, like, obviously the scene is iconic and everything. But I think the more shocking thing about that was that she was the main character for half the movie. Then suddenly she's gone. And then then you're kind of, like, watching the killer clean up his mess. And then you don't know you actually, like, they don't really tell you everything about the killer. You don't know if the mom's the killer. You don't know if Norman Bates is the killer, right? So you keep watching because you want to say, okay, well, did his mom do it? Did he do it? Obviously, he's cleaning up the mess for his mom, right? So there's that whole thing that's going on. So so I didn't really know, like, all the little details, but yes, I did. In the end, it ends up being that Norman Bates is his mom. Basically,
and also there is a sense from the beginning of this movie that something's off. The music, the violins, something's off. Like the music. Something's gonna happen. There's tension.
Yes.
Yeah. The entire score of this movie is strings. There's no other instruments in this movie, so that just brings about tension. You don't usually see that, and also, this is a movie that predates, modern DNA technology. So if Norman can get the blood up, if he can hide a couple of things, he's just got to keep his story straight, and he's good.
I was watching that scene. I was like, oh, man, CSI would bust this guy in no time. Oh, yeah. That was such a sloppy cleanup.
Yeah, now it would be done. Another thing, this movie is so beautifully directed with the camera angles and them
Yeah, there's
not
some cool
rushing.
angles. Yeah.
Them letting, you study facial, maneuvering and different things in the camera angles. But one of the very first shots in the opening scene is that back then it would have been a crane shot. Now they would call it a drone shot. But you're flying over that city and you go into that window and you see the main lady and her boyfriend, so to speak. But the way they fly over the city and go into that window, it's a beautiful example of how you want to use a drone in a movie. You use that at the beginning of the movie in Psycho, and it works perfectly. If you did that same drone shot halfway through the movie, it would completely take you out of the movie. Which is what I see now.
There was an excellent use of music and camera angles. That is 100% in this movie. And the two prime examples of that are the scene where Norman Bates stabs Lila Crane in the shower, because they show that, it's you have to keep in mind that they didn't like it. So this is like one of the things that took it away from me a little bit, is like this movie, this scene is so popular, it's so famous, but it's so tame compared to modern day stuff, right? So I almost kind of expected this scene to be more horrific, and it wasn't. So they did kind of like use camera angles to kind of create this tension while not actually showing the knife go inside the woman, because they didn't. You're kind of like almost expecting to see it, but it does, because you're so used to modern day violence and modern day movies, but you don't. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit why there was some points taken away, is because it is an older movie, and there's a cadence that they speak in these older movies, and sometimes you can't like really buy everything they're saying, like, because they don't speak that way in movies anymore, right? So it's almost a little bit fake, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It's an older movie. That's how they talked, and it's not that they're bad actors or anything. It's just that it doesn't sound like believable dialogue,
I think that the dialogue is believable in a kind of Twilight Zone type of way, where there's no wasted dialogue. Everything means something. There's something to read into. And it's also one of the reasons that I've watched this movie so many times, because the more you watch this movie, the more you understand the nuance of the dialogue, these characters, the mental mind games, why people are saying what they're saying. And also,
there was 100% good dialogue, but I'm saying the way it's delivered in the cadence of an old 1960 movie. So it's like, I don't know. It's just like I get taken out a little bit of these old movies when and it's not even all the actors, because actually I'm going to tell you, my absolute favorite. Well, before we get, I guess I'm going to say, like, one of my favorite things about this is the actor Anthony Perkins playing Norman Bates. I thought he did an excellent job. Phenomenal. Actually, I have nothing to complain about in his acting in this, because he sold the movie for me.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that they've said to the actor Dick Van Dyke, why does your show, the Dick Van Dyke Show, hold up so well generation after generation? The show was made from 1961 to 66. Why is it in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s? People discover this, and it holds up. And he said something that has stuck with me. And if you're a quote-unquote content creator, I used to just be making videos. Now I'm a content creator. Everything's corporate. But let this be a lesson to you.
I'm just a man. With a computer and a mic.
Your audience should not just be the audience of that week. The reason that Dick Van Dyke said it holds up is because the references made in the show are semi-generic references that don't point to very specific things that only people alive at that time will understand. Whereas there is an obsession with modern content creation of, we've got to talk about the stories of the week. We got to talk about Elon Musk. We got to talk about TikTok. All this stuff.
You just said a bad word on this show.
50 years from now, people won't understand a lot of this stuff. But when you watch Psycho, it holds up because this is only a reference that people would get in 1960.
I'm sorry, so you're saying, like, I mean, I get the references.
Well, I'm saying that there's so many references made today about TikTok and this modern YouTuber that 40 years from now, when people watch that same content, they're going to have no idea who these people are, what these people are referencing, what was going on at the time. Whereas with the Dick Van Dyke Show, you could go watch that now and understand everything in the episode because they're not talking about the current presidential election or things happening in the news that week specifically to get a laugh from the audience alive.
You never heard this show, have you? You never been on this. You never heard this show before, have you?
Well, I'm just giving a tip.
We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. We talk about old movies and sometimes modern movies that people like. Now, a lot of the times we focus on, say, a Marvel or a Star Wars or a blockbuster is because a lot of people do like those, and I have grown up with those kinds of movies. Now,
well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you watch like the Marvel movies or something now, there might be references to TikTok in those movies that would not hold up. But if you go back and watch, say, the Reeves Superman movies, there's no reference in that movie that's so modern for that time that it takes you out of the movie. And that was one of the things that Psycho did. And that should be a tip for anybody making quote unquote content. If you want your stuff to hold up, you need to have stuff that is not just about what's going on that week. And that's what Psycho does with the dialogue. It's timeless.
It is good dialogue. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the dialogue. I'm going to get into my best and my worst. And then maybe this will kind of smooth things over with you. So, I'm going to start with I think I covered my worst. My worst is, it is an old movie. I do know the references because I am a movie buff. Even though I haven't seen a movie, I kind of still know what the movie's about. There was no big surprises for me in this movie, unfortunately. If I saw this movie maybe when I was earlier, before I learned about all these references and they were spoiled for me, then maybe it'd be different. Now I do... So it's that, and it's also, I don't really watch a lot of old movies, and anytime I do watch an old movie, I do find once again, it wasn't the dialogue in this movie, it was the kind of the cadence of just the way they used to do old movies, like the way they speak. Like, people don't talk like that anymore. I don't know if it's just that they don't talk like that anymore, or if it's just like this is the way people talked in movies back then. I don't know, because that's 1960, that's pre-me, so I don't know, but I know it takes me out because it does feel a little less authentic when some of these actors or actresses deliver these lines. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from the actors in this movie. They did a fine job, except for maybe, I don't know, the boyfriend of Lila Crane, but whatever. He was probably one of my least favorite actor in this thing. But now I'm going to tell you what I like about this movie. I do like watching old movies because I like seeing where these references came from, right? I do like learning about like history in Hollywood, and when I go back and I see these movies, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now I get it. This is where this came from, right? Like, even when I watched The Shining the first time, I was like, okay, that was cool, but I did find myself going back to it a couple times after. It took me some time. But I was like, you know what, it's Halloween, I'll watch that movie again. So maybe this will be something that I grow to love in time, right? And appreciate in time. Because there is things that I do like. And this is the number one. It is Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. This guy did an exceptional job as Norman Bates. He did a tremendous, tremendous job. So I can't take anything about any of the lines he delivers because he's so realistic. And he just plays like such a psycho, oh, we said it, so well. Right? Because he is playing the dual personality, and as you said, I'm sure I know if I watch this again, I'll catch little nuances. Now, I'm kind of in the middle of my best and worst, but I want to point something out. This is something I noticed in the movie. Right off the hop, she stops at the hotel, right? Or the motel, whatever it is. And I guess it looks like a motel, but they call it the Bates Hotel, right? Which is it, a hotel or a motel?
Motel.
Okay, it is a motel. Okay, fantastic. So, and then he says, well, nobody ever comes here anymore since they moved the highway. So right away, and I just want to ask you, do you know which highway he's talking about?
No, I have no idea. I've not been to that. I've been to that state. I've been to Arizona and California and all those places, but that's of no relevance to me that I personally know that highway.
So, and it's funny because this is just stuff that I pick up from my pop culture, me just wanting to know stuff about pulp culture and just wanting to know stuff, basically. So I picked up that line because it wasn't too long ago that I learned that they changed U.S. Route 66 or U.S. Highway 66. They changed it. It used to be like this long highway.
Yeah.
So it was established. Let's see. So there was a point. Yeah, the history lesson in the middle of the review. But basically, they moved that highway, and it was like this long highway that went through the U.S. and it went to Los Angeles, right, or like to California.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the most legendary highway, Route 66 in the U.S.
And then it was moved, right, or something like that.
I mean, they've made modifications to it. They've added, they've taken away.
Right, they moved the highway. So basically, these businesses that were along this highway, they went out of business, kind of thing, because they weren't. So, like, it went across many, many states. I'm sure it still does. I don't know if Route 66 is something that still exists or if they just changed it. But it used to. There. Okay, so it actually used to be, like, it used to go, like, a certain direction, but they changed, like, where it went. So all these businesses during that time, they obviously lost money on that because they were getting all the money from all the tourists going to California, right?
Yeah.
So they mentioned this in Cars, Pixar's Cars. They actually that's a reference in there, like, so it's referenced in other stuff too. But that's like a real thing that happened. So that's something I noticed that he said. I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's talking about that highway. Anyways, I just heard about this like a few months ago and was like, okay, boom, that's cool. So I totally get that. That's like a part of like American history. And it's just a neat little thing that's like a real thing that happened in real life that's a reference in this story. Anyways, back to what I was saying. The man who plays Norman Bates, this guy is great. He definitely sells the whole movie, and it is the little nuances. So, speaking of nuances, he goes to reach for the key, right? And I'm sure you've noticed this because you've seen this movie probably 1,000 times, or you said you've seen it once. What key he doesn't give, like, no, what key does he reach for?
Well, he basically he likes her. This is part of the nuance of this movie. He's into this chick and he wants her to be right next door to the office.
Okay.
So
now, that's they did say that, like, that's what the doctor said at the end, the psychiatrist. But I always thought, or not always, I just seen this movie. But what I thought immediately, because they mentioned the highway, he reaches for number 3. And originally she says where she's from. She originally says Los Angeles or California, right? Then when he says that, he switches his hand and goes and grabs number 1. So I thought, okay, did he decide he was going to murder her at this point? Because he's angry at the people of California because they moved the highway away from the Bates Motel and basically the business of the family? I thought maybe that was a thing right there.
This is what you're talking about is we talk about the Vince Vaughn, I think 1998, shot for shot, same dialogue remake of the movie. What you're talking about right now is the only thing that is more clear in the Vince Vaughn movie than the movie you're thinking. The only reason I think what you're saying is inaccurate is because I've seen the Vince Vaughn movie and they lay it out so much more clearly in a way, I'm not going to spoil it, but in a way that they could not have in 1960.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I mean, I haven't seen the other versions of Psycho. This is this is my introduction to this, if you want to call it series or franchise. But my feeling is he just likes her. He wants her next door, and this is not addressed in the remake or anything like that. But maybe he's done this before. Maybe this is an entire playbook he's run through before. Mm-hmm. So what makes him change his mind then? Because it's only when she says where she's going to that he changes his mind. So do you think that makes him like her more because she's from California?
I mean, possibly. It's one of those things where I've seen this movie so many times, but the specifics of some of these things and the order in which they happen elude me right now. But I mean, it's possible. I'm sure if I watched it again, I'd be like, okay, this is exactly what I think. But right now, I can't quite put my finger on it.
Right. And
I will say, though, in terms, kind of switching a little bit here, but in terms of when you said that the stabbing in the shower was a little bit mild, I think for 1960 it could only be so graphic, and there was probably a director's choice on the part of Hitchcock that this will be more graphic to people if we show just as much of it as we can possibly show and get away with, and let the individual person's imagination fill in the blanks. That's more graphic than if we show what we can show.
Well, I'm sure her being topless, like in that scene, like obviously she's, or presumed to be naked from the top down. Yeah. They don't really show anything. But I'm sure that, and also she was like, I mean, she's wearing a bra in 2 different scenes. Like, obviously there's a sex appeal to the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, it's nothing for us to see, like, this old-fashioned bra that she's wearing. But back in the day, that must have been, like, some hot shit. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm sure the whole, like, graphic nature of her, like, being naked and also getting stabbed, I think that was probably another shocker to people back then. And you could easily see where this movie influenced the
I could see a little bit of almost like Reservoir Dogs, that scene with the air that people, the guy with the razor blade in the air. I don't know if you've seen Reservoir Dogs.
I have, but you can see where this movie easily influenced slashers.
Yeah.
And especially you could say Friday the 13th. Because you got, like, the whole mom thing going on. Like, the mom's actually the bad guy, and, kind of twist kind of deal. You know what I mean? But not really kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
So you could definitely see where this movie influenced slasher films. And, like, I would say, like, I don't know, I never lived in 1960, but I'm going to take a wild stab at it and say that there probably wasn't any slasher films before this movie existed. Like, I wouldn't even call this movie a slasher film. This is more like you said, it's not a horror. It's more like a suspense thriller kind of thing.
See, I'd put this in the classification of horror.
Okay.
I mean, horror, like I said, I've watched so many horror movies. Last October, the October before, I've seen that there's a wide genre, and this very niche genre of horror that we have, it's the Amityville horror. There's a ghost and a demon in the basement. It's so much more wide than that. I mean, you've got, I don't want to go too much into this movie, but it does have many horror elements. I do consider this a horror movie. And also I consider slasher movies sometimes to be horror movies as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not saying that this isn't, like, I mean, they do 100% consider this a horror movie. Like, on Wikipedia, it literally says Psycho is a 1960 American horror film. So... but I'm just saying, like, compared to modern day standards, someone might consider this more like a suspense kind of thriller, just because it's not as graphic compared to modern day horrors. And definitely slashers are 100% horrors. I think when I think horror, though, I'm thinking of, like, grotesque, like, guts and, like, gore and kind of stuff, right? Because there's not any gore in this movie.
Well, and there's been a lot of movies that have had gore that, were not great movies and maybe could have leaned a little bit more on good dialogue, good plot, good music, a nice pacing. What this movie does too, it's almost like, there's a very Western concept of everything has to be full all the time, no empty spaces or whatever. But in the East, in Japanese culture, you see in a lot of their art, they understand that for you to appreciate something, there should be nothing somewhere else. And that's kind of how this movie is. Nothing's going on here, nothing too extreme. You can relax, but not fully, because there is suspense. And then when something happens, it's shocking. It stands out, as opposed to just 2 hours of gore and blood, and you're burnt out 15 minutes in, and you're done basically.
Mm-hmm. So let me finish my best and worst. So the other thing I really like about this, and I actually got sidetracked when I was talking about it earlier, is the music. So, like I said, the first thing I really like about this is the actor who plays Norman Bates and the music. As you said, it's all those strings, and it's just so intense. The one scene in particular that sticks out to me, even though it's not the famous one, is the one where the inspector gets stabbed. And it's because it's just yeah. He's going up the stair or down the stairs or up the stairs. Either way, it's the angle of it, because suddenly, well, you think it's Norman Bates' mother, but it's him like dressed as his mother. It's just like it's just like like a really sharp tone, and then just comes out of nowhere from the right side of the frame, and just you're like, oh, like that was a scary scene. Like that was cool. I really liked that one. Because it was like, holy, they did it with the angle and the music, and that was really well done. Now, as for the actual cut on his face, that was a little lame, but the setup before it was really cool.
Well, yeah, and then that's a highly talked about thing, too. There's like 4 or 5 beautifully done, quick cuts in there that juxtapose with the rest of the movie that has longer cuts, you know, not as rapid fire. There's a quick like zoom shot there. You get a shot kind of behind him, like a zoom shot that gives you a sense of vertigo, so you see he's falling.
Yeah.
And like you said, it comes out of nowhere. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that was filmed well, and once again, so because it's like an old movie, I know they tried to make it look like there was a cut across his face, but I guess they just like painted his face with something to make it look like there was a cut or something. Like, again, that kind of stuff takes me out. And again, it's an old movie, so you know. But really love the setup to that, though. That was really cool. So, like I said, my favorite things, the actor and the music, and my least favorite things is like, because it unfortunately suffers from being an old movie in my eyes, and unfortunately gonna be a lot of other people's eyes. And just also, you know, that kind of stuff, when you see the old effects, sometimes it does take you out. You know, scenes like that, especially when it's set up so well, and then you're just like, oh, and then they just paint it on his face.
Well, I mean, I figure he, you know, maybe got stabbed in the body and maybe was scratched in the face once, you know.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now you're just making up. But that's okay. That's what we do with the with the movies we love, right? So that's my best and worst, and you can take it away. You can tell me what your best thing, what your favorite is about this movie, and your least favorite things about this movie, if you have a least favorite.
I mean, you know, there's so many movies that you put them on and it's like, let me fast forward through the first 3 minutes because I just want to get to dialogue where the movie starts. When I put this thing on, that music comes on and I just let it play out the same way I do with Scarface or West Side Story. You don't skip anything. To me, the movie is just beautiful from top to bottom. In fact, I'm going to read you my review. It's pretty short. This was the review I posted on Letterboxd. Quote, hands down, one of the best horror movies ever made. A timeless classic you can enjoy over and over, unless you're JPar, then you watch it once.
I didn't say I hated it.
The plot, the acting, the music all come together beautifully to tell a story that keeps you engaged the entire time. A must-watch movie for fans of horror or for fans of movies in general. End quote. I love the acting. I love the music, the pacing of the movie. What do I dislike about this movie? It's one of those things I've seen it so many times, enjoyed it so many times, and accepted it for what it is that it's hard for me to pick anything that I dislike.
So why not a 5 then?
Because there are some movies, you know, listen, I used to watch Howard Stern, and they bring in these women and they'd rate them on beauty from 1 to 10 or whatever, and Artie Lang, the sidekick, said something to me that I always think about when I'm rating these movies. This girl came in, she was stunning, beautiful girl. Artie gives her a 9 out of 10, and Howard says to Artie, why not give her a 10? And he said, I need some room just in case something better comes in. He's right.
No, I know.
And that's why. You got to have room. There are 5-star movies, but they have to be very rare. These movies have to earn them. I've reviewed, like I said, 450 movies. I have no idea. There might be 4 5-star movies out of all of them. But to get 4 stars is extremely rare, too. There might only be like 6 4-star movies. In terms of what I did not like about this movie, I'd really have to think about that. I mean, To me, it's just a great movie. It doesn't run long. They're not wasting your time like a lot of movies today with extra scenes. You know, you think about God, there's a certain Batman movie people talk about, and they're like, "This is a great movie," and then there's another 35 minutes after it.
You mean the Dark Knight, the second one of the Nolan ones? Yeah,
Yeah,
I really like the Dark Knight, and I totally agree, and I've always said that about the Dark Knight. There's like an extra 30 minutes they don't need there. As soon as he catches the Joker, that's the end.
We're done.
We're done.
And he's
save Two-Face for the next movie. We're done.
And the thing is, Batman himself is so dull in that movie, and only made more dull by the other people in the movie, that you don't just want to hang out with him. We're not here to see you, Batman. You know, but yes, Psycho doesn't do that. I can't think of anything I dislike about this movie. Just a great movie.
Right. I didn't mention this before, but it is based on a novel by Robert Bloch.
And it's based on a novel that's based on a true story, and on Netflix now. I believe the real person's name is Ed Gaines or something like this. This is a telling of a lot of stuff that actually happened. They have taken some creative license and changed some stuff. But there's an entire series on this now. Haven't watched it. There was also a show called Bates Motel, which was like a prequel to the movie, which I watched the whole thing. It was all right. You don't need to watch it.
Okay, good to know.
Certainly not all 5 seasons like I did, but it was all right.
Now let's talk, before we check out, I just want to talk about the amount of money she steals. Let's just have a good laugh about this. Because the amount is $40,000, right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's not nothing to sneeze at. I mean, we'd all be very happy to have $40,000. But I think $40,000 was definitely worth a lot more back then, because that drunk guy or that dude that was hitting on her at the beginning there, he's talking about like buying his daughter a house and stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, holy man, I'm like, $40,000 could have got you a house back then?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I watch like old Honeymooners episodes, and I know that the U.S. money is valued at like 8.5 times as much as it was back then, and that's like 1953. So this is 1960. So let's say that the money is worth 7 times more. Mm-hmm. So you got to do 4 times 7, and then you kind of figure out, where that is.
Yeah, so $40,000 would have been like a hell of a lot back then.
Yeah, would have been way more money back then, and also things cost less. Money had more buying power back then. This is a time where one parent working could support, a spouse, have a couple of kids, could actually own a house, not just be renting it or paying mortgage, could actually own a car, not just be making payments on it. So yeah, that would have been a significant amount of money, especially to her, who she's the secretary at a bank. So she's not making that much money.
Yes, it's definitely like a life-changing amount of money that you would consider bailing on your 10-year job for.
Well, and also you have to think about the fact that here's a woman who, we see her boyfriend at the beginning, and we know she's just sleeping with that guy. There's nothing serious. Right. This is at a time there was more sexism. Women were only going to make so much money. You needed a guy to take care of you. She doesn't have that. She's got no prospects in her life.
Yeah, and you did talk about some of the dialogue, which was really good. I think the conversation between Norman Bates and her in the den with the stuffed birds was a very good conversation, and it really shows you the motives of the characters in that scene.
Yes, and it is also a scene where you can read into it. He's trying to figure out who this woman actually is, and at the same time, she's trying to keep the lie going. And also, she starts to get a little bit uneasy.
Terrible at lying.
Yeah,
she blew it like right away.
She's slipping up, but she gets a little bit uneasy. She's starting to think this is a little bit, something's off here.
Well, I think she's taken off by his charm and like how nice he is, right? Like, because it's.
Well, I think also she's kind of. he comes off kind of childish and,
Yes,
and
he
not
does.
simple, but young and unexperienced in a way.
There is a boy-like charm to him, very much so.
Yes, I mean, I didn't find him attractive the way you
No,
did,
but
but
I
I
mean,
understand what you're saying.
He's a nice guy, right? So like,
Yeah.
he is boyish in his ways, 100%.
Yes, but a lot of this is not adult conversation, and also she can clearly see this is a guy, lives with his mother, has a hobby of stuffing birds.
which
There's
is
no
so
women
weird.
around at your age. You're not going out. Things that you might expect to come up in a conversation are not coming up. And another thing I have to mention, to Hitchcock's brilliance, the scene where Vera Miles, the main character, her real name, gets stabbed in the shower. Hitchcock did not tell her or anybody else. As she's getting stabbed, Hitchcock switched the water from warm, nice water to freezing cold to make sure that scream was as real as possible.
Yeah, but Hitchcock doesn't he have like a tradition of like torturing his actresses?
Yes, yeah. There's a movie about Hitchcock. He had his problems, but
Yeah.
But you're getting one take. It's 1960. She's not going to sue you for some cold water. Why not go for it?
All right. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we head out?
Well, I mean, I would say to people, you owe it to yourself, as I said in my review, if you're a fan of horror or you're a fan of movies, you owe it to yourself to watch this movie. Also, if you're like JPar,
Here we go.
you need to watch it to fill in the blanks of pop culture references and other things that you've seen in your life to make sense of the world. I mean, this was great. I had a great time. Hopefully you'll have me back on. Hopefully, we won't get pulled from the network after this episode.
Oh, yeah, totally. And we'll probably do like another older movie because I'm just going to tell you for reference, this is only the second movie on this channel that was a black and white movie that was reviewed.
Oh my god!
And guess what it was?
I'm a different type of guy. I mean, I watched
It was Young Frankenstein.
Oh, jeez. Jay. You can't, all right. Well,
thanks for coming on, Arachnid. We'll see if we can find something else for us to review here. I definitely enjoyed, like, don't get me wrong, I gave it a 3, but I enjoyed this movie. But, I'm basing it on how I rate movies and how I've kind of deciphered how I rate movies over the years. So once again, this isn't to discourage anyone to not watch it. I think everyone should go out and watch different movies, and they should watch movies, especially old movies, to see where, like you said, where these pop references come from. It all comes together, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess we owe a lot more to this movie than I thought we did, and you really do. So it definitely deserves at least a watch one time, just for the history lesson, just to see where it's all coming from.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
All right, so I want to thank ArachnidSoul for being on the show today, and I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween, because that's why we did this movie. And, once again, always want to see those comments. Leave a comment, leave a like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. And you can leave a comment below. Let us know if you've seen Psycho before, what you think of this movie. You can tell us if you think it's too old for your taste or if it blew your mind. Let us know in the comments below. We might reply, we might not. But as always, we promise nothing. Good night.